Marriage is immortal. Marriage will never die. Individual marriages may collapse, often collapse. Marriage is one of the most difficult things for humans to maintain. In fact, to simply maintain a marriage is one thing that evades a great many of us, and to have what one might consider a successful marriage is even rarer. But marriage in general can never die. It is immortal. I have a great many reasons with which I could support this. I'm actually going to go with a lower, less potent reason, but still potent. It is only less potent in its relative potency to my other reasons. I'm going to start off with referencing a rather intelligent man with whom I disagree with on many fronts. I'm a member of the LDS Church, the Mormon Church, and the man I'm going to be referencing is the man who wrote this book, The God Delusion. His name is Richard Dawkins. Very, very bright man. Richard Dawkins, in one of his earlier books, came up with the concept of a meme. So you can see it. The meme, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, is similar for ideas and thoughts and concepts as genes are for biological traits being passed on. So, say through the course of evolution, genes, the various manifestations, things genes do to organisms as they develop, determine the fitness of those organisms and hence their capacity to survive from one generation to the next in the whole ecosystem. And the meme, likewise, like organisms and like genes, gets passed on depending upon its relative strength within the system it's found in. I'm going to demonstrate that marriage is at least on par with the strongest, if not the strongest meme that has ever developed, if it indeed developed. First off, it's the ultimate symbiotic relationship. Now, to kind of demonstrate this point, I'm not sure how many of you have been involved in any bridge building contests of any kind with, say, balsa wood and glue. What happens in these instances is oftentimes you'll be given a kit with a set amount of balsa wood, you'll be given a set amount of glue, and particular areas in which pressure will be applied to the bottom of the bridge and the top. Now, what ends up happening is when you construct the balsa wood, the strongest way to put them together is to place the balsa wood like this. Only you don't glue at only one point or another. You put glue all along it, and it has what's called a force multiplier as far as increasing its strength. If you take a single beam and you brace it in the middle, that increases its strength to a certain degree. If you then brace it also at the midpoints there, it increases it even more. But when you glue two pieces of balsa wood or any kind of wood together all the way along the panel, it increases the strength far more than simply bracing it at one point. It's a continual bracing of both boards, and their strength is more than just the two of them would be alone. Marriage is the ultimate symbiotic relationship. It's an archetype, or akin to an archetype of a symbiotic relationship. Its potency, when it is fully manifest, outranks any other symbiotic relationship. Now, there's also the fact that it is the single institution that is tied to the easiest means of propagation. Now, I don't simply mean the physical act of reproducing offspring, but also the act of inculcating and raising and directing that posterity to a position in which they will be most apt and most capable of again forming a marriage bond and continuing on with their seed, and not simply continuing on with their seed and producing seed, but they will be the ones most likely to produce that. Now, the strongest point of marriage is the idea of commitment. In The Resident, in her recent post vid on the question of if marriage is marriage dead? One thing that is missed so much by many is the fact that the one single most potent determining factor in if a marriage will succeed is the predeterminations of each person in the marriage. If both people in the marriage are determined to make it work, that is the single greatest, and this has been proven in psychological tests and in actual studies, that this is the single greatest factor to determine if two people will last in a marriage, is whether or not they determine to. So the idea of commitment and determination and sticking to one thing, this focus, the energy, and again it produces its own force multipliers. It is stronger than simply two people. It's where you take 1 + 1 and it equals 3 or 4 or more, because the output doesn't equal the input, because the output is doubled, tripled, quadrupled because of various concepts like commitment without bounds, determined commitment no matter what. With that kind of focus, the symbiotic relationship, the meme of marriage, is more potent than any other arrangement that can be made. Now, this is again my relatively the weakest argument I can give. I have many other arguments I can give for marriage.